Welcome everyone to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. And this organization, ISKCON, ISKCON, was born from the mind and heart of the founder. His name, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He had received some instruction from a great saintly person that he met, who later became his spiritual master. It happened in Calcutta, in a place called Altadunga Junction Road. At that time, my spiritual master, who was not then my spiritual master, of course he's always, but there's a way in which I don't think I was born yet. He had been engaged in college, in business life, family life. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Only two people work or have a family here. And growing up, my spiritual master, his honorific name is Prabhupada, had the benefit of having a father and mother who were devotees of Krishna, very specific of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada's father, Gaur Mohan Dey, who Prabhupada writes about in one of his introductory pieces, was a pure devotee of Krishna in his own right. And he was very eager for his son to become a devotee. And he would therefore invite spiritually oriented people to come to their house. And he would host them, feed them. Even in some cases, he would offer them a hookah, if that's what they wanted. And he would ask them to please bless my son to become a devotee of Srimati Radharani. And many of those sadhus, as many of you already know, someone who's a sadhaka, practicing a spiritual path in order to reach a sadhya. It's all from the same word, which means the goal of your sadhana. And many of them were professionals in that they would keep the cloth of a renunciate in order to earn a livelihood. And as a child growing up, Prabhupada had seen many of these saintly people, or pseudo-saintly people, some of them, come to the house. He didn't develop a very favorable impression about so-called saintly people. And therefore, in his college days, or just past his college days, he was already in family life, when a friend of his had told him that there was a saintly person speaking nearby, and that his friend said, "I like him very much, and we wish you to come meet him." And one of the reasons that they had wished him to come meet this saintly person, who turned out to be Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was that Prabhupada, even in his youth, was a leader amongst his friends. He would help to organize whatever they did, whether it was games or excursions. And they, his friends, his group, in childhood and even in college, looked up to him as a leader. So they wanted his stamp of approval that this is a substantial, saintly person. They asked him to come, and he said, no, I've seen enough. I don't need to see another. But his friend insisted, and Prabhupada mentioned that practically he dragged him to come there. The place where he did meet his future spiritual master at Ultadanga Junction Road had been an ashrama where serious practitioners of Bhakti Yoga had lived, as well as their spiritual teacher, Srila Bhaktivedanta. And it was in a neighborhood that would maybe be considered lower class, poor neighborhood. And it was a simple dwelling. As we found out later, because later all of the residents there had moved into a large temple made of beautiful marble, something that was donated. Thank you. I needed that. I don't know where else you get flower garlands, except for where Krishna is. Hawaii, but it's not the same. Alaska, where? Oh, yeah, plastic won't do. The building was simple. The neighborhood was poor. And the residents were poor also, meaning the spiritual practitioners who lived there lived in a very simple way. We know this because Prabhupada had said later on that that place, Ultadanga Junction Road, had been a place where they were noticeably poor. They didn't have a lot of money, but they had a lot of spirit. Because somebody had commented, perhaps it was one of Prabhupada's godbrothers later, but he said, we even had a hard time purchasing enough rice. And if you know Bengal, that's a pretty incredible statement. Because Bengal's got a lot of rice, doesn't it? Bengalis? Anyone? Okay. In fact, when you say anna, which means food, Bengalis think rice, because that's what we eat. And when Srila Prabhupada went there, he walked up some stairs, and he met his spiritual master who was seated there with some of his followers. And he was holding forth, speaking, and others were sitting listening. Those same stairs are there because the building, although it had become a ruin and it was condemned, was purchased by ISKCON, and it was refurbished from the ground up, expertly, so much so they won an award for rebuilding it. They kept many of the original pieces, as many of the original pieces of that building as possible. They didn't throw anything away. One of the features of that place, that ashrama that's now restored, is the stairwell that goes up to where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was sitting. And the original stones are there, but they've coated them with some kind of material so you can see the actual stones. And for me, when I go there and I remember that in that stairway, Prabhupada had been walking towards divine fate, in that he would meet his guru there. And as Prabhupada, in a lecture later, on the occasion of the disappearance of his Guru Maharaj, his beloved teacher, had prefaced many of his sentences with, "Who knew that I would meet my Guru there? Who knew he would give me a mission to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world? Who knew that when I came to the West, I would meet all of you?" He was speaking to his then fledgling group of students. And when we walk up that stairwell, every time I go there, I remember how we're very close to Krishna. However, when he makes an arrangement for us and leads us in a particular direction, and we take that direction, we can meet our life's mission in service to Krishna. So when Prabhupada walked up the stairwell and he saw his future spiritual master sitting on a dais, a vyasasana, and students around him, he naturally went and paid his respects by bowing down. Before he would sit back up again, as he was making the arc backwards to sit down in front of his spiritual master was already speaking directly to him and encouraging him to take up a mission to spread the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all over the world, and especially to the Western world. He recounts, does Prabhupada, the founder of this movement, that in that moment he had received his lifetime service. He had a discussion with his teacher in which he argued that until India became independent of the British, who would listen to the message of the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam? Who would listen to those who were subjugated by the colonists? And his guru countered his argument by saying that there's no impediment to Krishna consciousness, ever. There may seem as if there's an unfavorable circumstance, but that cannot hinder the growth of Krishna consciousness in an individual or in a movement whose time has come. And little by little, in discussing with his guru and giving his own arguments of why it couldn't be done, his guru convinced him that he should assume that it could be done. And he does Prabhupada, about how during that meeting his trajectory in life had changed. He was not the same person when he walked out as when he walked in. Because now he had a sense of his ultimate purpose in life that he had received through the representative of Krishna, the spiritual master. This is a principle that Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita. Evam parampara praptam imam braja shreyo vidu sakalaneha mahata yoga nashta parantapa. It's the way in which Krishna, who's the origin of everything and everyone, gives benevolent instructions to the first created being of the universe, which is whom? Okay, if you said Brahma, give yourself 20 points. I can't tell who said who did. You got 20, okay. And Brahma then spoke the same message that he heard to his son, Narada. And Narada then had a disciple for 30 points. Who is Narada's disciple? Give yourself 30 points if you said it. Some of you have 50 points now. There's a traceable line of teachers who had similar experiences to our Prabhupada, who had met an ambassador of the Supreme, and then who had subsequently become ambassadors themselves. And by divine arrangement, when there are those who are representing Krishna, there are also those who are searching for a representative. This is mentioned by one of Krishna's most magnificent and munificent avatars in his teachings to one of his intimate disciples, in which he said, Brahmanda Brahmate Khon Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. Were wandering, he said, means countless living entities. Check and see if you're a living entity. Have you checked today, or did you just wake up and do whatever you normally do, or did you check in? I went to the park today and I sat down in my local park early in the morning. Only a couple dog walkers. It's unfortunate dogs get up so early, but what can be done? I sat for a long time. I chanted my Gayatri mantras there, but I wanted to take a long time to chant, and I was just appreciating that I was alive, because oftentimes I'm so absorbed in living in my life situation that I forget I'm alive. I just do what's the next duty to do and the next meeting to do. I had meetings all morning today. And I could become so absorbed in what's the next thing and what's the next problem to solve, sounding familiar, that I forget about my own life. And then I'm conscious. So I sat there for a long time, chanted my Gayatri very slowly, tried to think of every syllable. And I felt satisfied, happy by the experience. So Krishna speaks the original message and he passes it down so that everyone can start on their own path of self-realization by hearing Krishna's instructions, which start with noticing the difference between yourself and your external circumstance, including your body, which is a little startling to say because, wait a minute, I am my body. But Krishna says, Dehi no sminyata dehe, komaran yovaram jara, tata deha praptir hiras tatra namuyate. He said, if you're a little sober-minded and you take some time to observe, you'll notice that you're not your body. And Krishna then advises that you find somebody who can help guide you on the path of spiritual realization. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, we're wandering as living souls in this world. We've forgotten who we are, what our purpose is. But then there's this time in which we can become fortunate. He says, by Krishna's arrangement, one can meet Guru, a representative of Krishna, and by the mercy of the Guru, one comes to know Krishna. The combined effort of Krishna from within our own hearts, and he also arranges externally that we can meet guides that help us to know Krishna. Is something that Sri Uddhava had noted himself in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto. Naivo payantya pachitim kavayastavesha. He said, I'm so grateful that Krishna is guiding me from within the heart, and that he has also arranged externally for there to be guides to show his own path, how to go back to him. So that meeting in Ultadanga Junction Road, we now know was very significant, because at the time that he met his spiritual master by divine arrangement and had received the instruction, he was inspired to carry it out. But could he carry it out right away? Say no. 10 points. It took him 12 years before he could fully embrace the process of initiation. That didn't hinder him internally from incubating a plot to carry out the order of his spiritual master. There are ways in which we may receive an instruction that seems impossible. I have a real life fairly modern example of this, because in 1975 in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada had called all of his leaders from around the world to meet there. He had something very important to tell them, and he wanted to tell them in person. They flew in from various parts of the world. The governing body commissioners that he had appointed to help manage the movement. And every morning he would go to one part or another of Los Angeles for his morning walk. It was a suggestion by a cardiologist who told Prabhupada he would live longer if he walked every day. So Prabhupada religiously went out and walked briskly. And oftentimes he imparted some of his most important instructions to those who came with him on his walk. And this particular day on Venice Beach, where we're just about to go to hold the Ratha Yatra, Prabhupada was walking, and along with him there were a couple of devotees. One was Radha Ballabha and another was Rameshwar. They were managing the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in Los Angeles. And Prabhupada had written the manuscript for the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. But it was sitting there because the devotees in the BBT were working overtime to keep up with Prabhupada, who was producing many manuscripts. In fact, he had started by the instruction of his guru, who also had later told him that his main mission should be printing and distributing books. Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Nectar of Devotion, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Some of them he had printed on a home printing press. The first property ever obtained in ISKCON was in Boston on Beacon Street. And at that time, in our organization called International Society for Krishna Consciousness, it wasn't very international. There was only a couple places on the planet where people were part of the organization. It was sparse. What's more, there was not much money. And nowadays, there's working devotees who earn money, they give money. Back then, there were no working devotees. Well, maybe one or two. A couple of my godbrothers joined, and one of them was driving a taxi cab. And he thought, I'll join, I'll become a renunciate. And Prabhupada said, nope, work and give the fruit of your labor to help this movement. And he did that. And more, because he had an inheritance and he gave some money. You'll see his name in one of the books where Prabhupada appreciated his donation, so he was able to print the Nectar of Devotion. So at the time of 1975, there were quite a few books that Prabhupada was working on, and one of them was the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is 9 volumes. If you take the time, you can notice it in that bookshelf. It's the second shelf down, the golden colored books that are there. It's an extensive work. There was also a professor in Chicago at the time named Professor Dimmock. He was a specialist in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He knew Bengali. In fact, he created a course that I still have in my attic with tapes. Sorry, you won't be able to play it unless you buy a tape recorder, and good luck with that, about how to learn Bengali. And he had his own version of Chaitanya Charitamrita that was pending and was supposed to come out at any time. For various reasons, Prabhupada was eager to have his book come out first. mostly because he wanted the world to know about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teachings, which he had summarized in the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which I highly recommend if you want to read the PhD thesis on the life of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's there in the TLC, the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And when Prabhupada was on his walk that day, he told the managing director of the BBT, Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, that Prabhupada had founded, that he wanted the Chaitanya Charitamrita printed quickly. It just so happens that this manager had purchased new equipment for Los Angeles, the headquarters of the BBT. For the world, actually. It was the headquarters for the whole world. Even India bought books from Los Angeles at that time. Everybody did. And he, with a sense of pride, perhaps, that they had prepared for this, he said, we can print one of your books from the manuscript of Chaitanya Charitamrita, one every 2 months, which would have been a record according to the pace at which they had been able to print books in the past. So he proudly said that, did Rameshwar. And Prabhupada then stopped and he said, I want all the books in 2 months. And famously, or maybe I'll say first, infamously, Rameshwar had replied, but Prabhupada, that's impossible. Prabhupada then famously said, impossible is a word used in a fool's dictionary. I personally talked to Rameshwar when I was writing my book. I interviewed him because I wanted to hear the inside scoop. It always helps to talk to the person who was there, the eyewitness. Because you hear things and they get distorted. So I interviewed him and I said, what happened? What was it like? He said, I was stunned. After saying that, Prabhupada walked on. And he said, I stayed back. And he had an existential struggle going on within his mind and heart. It was impossible under the circumstances, according to his frame of reference, his worldview at that time dictated that it was impossible to print that many books within that short of a time. And then it came to his mind that along with the order of Krishna, or the spiritual master, representative of Krishna, one also receives the power to enact the service that was given. And of course, every one of us has an independent choice to make. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, if you surrender to me, then I'll just take care of you. And you won't have to worry about anything else. And then someone can say, nah. Or someone can read that again, and maybe a few more times, and then sleep on it, and then say, I think I'll do this. That's when one's life becomes auspicious. And Rameshwar had such an internal dialogue going on. It is impossible, but my spiritual master has demanded. In fact, Prabhupada had planted his cane in the sand when he made his statement. Impossible is a word found only in a fool's dictionary. And then walked on as if to say, you deal with it. And if you think back to what Prabhupada had experienced when he met his spiritual master as a young man, and his spiritual master said, now you take this and spread it to the whole Western world. And he thought, me? But he already saw it manifesting before his eyes, did Prabhupada. Came alone on a boat from Calcutta, landed all alone with no money, And by sticking to the basic tenets of Krishna consciousness as taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he saw miracles happen every day, not the least of which were young men and women who came and said, I'd like to join. And he saw that fledgling movement come up from nothing just based on the order of his spiritual master. So he knew what he was saying was true, that impossible is a word found in a fool's dictionary. And Rameshwar told me that when he made the choice internally that I'm going to do this, I don't know how yet, but when he decided, I'll do it, no matter what, he said, then the universe changed. The universe might not have changed, but his vision of it did. He said he looked up and he saw that he was in a universe. Before that, he hadn't noticed as much, as all of us barely notice. We just go on with our daily lives. We know where we live. We know how to turn the car on. We don't know how the car works. We get water out of a faucet. We don't really know where it came from. Nor do we know how the body utilizes water and sends it to all the right places. We don't know anything. Right? Knowledge illusion. And suddenly, he said, after he accepted it, deeply in his heart, he made the decision, I accept. That's when he said, ideas started flowing into his mind like a current, waves of a river coming in. And he and his assistant then began to animatedly discussing the possibilities. He said so animatedly that he wondered at what the people along the beach must have thought if he saw them conversing in one of those dialogues that you get on your phone and you're thinking, come on now, would you get to the point? And then you push 2x. He said they were talking like that. That's when the spiritual energy started to flow into their hearts, when they accepted the service, the impossible service. And with these ideas in mind, the two of them ran to catch up with Prabhupada and asked Prabhupada if we can ask some concessions. And Prabhupada granted each one of them for the sake of finishing it within 2 months. One of the concessions was, we move all of the members of the BBT, some of them had been stationed at other places like the East Coast, everyone come to Los Angeles. Granted. We also speed up the process of the artwork because it takes a long time to paint a picture, doesn't it? What to speak of, have it photographed, which was the system back there, and nowadays they're scanned. What to speak of, they had to get them approved by Prabhupada. So he told Prabhupada, we need the concession that we can have these rapidly approved by you and moved through the system. Plus, we need every able-bodied artist on the planet that has anything to do with ISKCON to come and help paint. One of those devotees who was recruited was in her teens, and she comes here to this temple. Her name's Dhriti Devi Dasi, a very talented artist since she was a kid. She began associating with devotees. Although she wasn't fully committed at that time, she liked the devotees. She hung out with devotees, and then she got recruited to come to Los Angeles to paint. And when she stepped in the door, they immediately escorted her to an artist studio on Vaisesika Avenue and said, here's what we need, please paint. She told me on an interview that I did with her that I just thought that was what ISKCON is. You walk in, they take you to a room and say, paint. I asked her, when this 2-month marathon was finished, was it a relief? She said, oh no. I went on painting for 3 more years without stoppage because Prabhupada was still there. In 2.5 years, still on the planet, he was still producing literature and still demand for art was such. She said, when Prabhupada left the world, she became immediately aware of the fact that her lifeline was the service she had received from Prabhupada, that he had given her by ordering this marathon, and she had walked into it, and she said that was her connection to him. And she became disconsolate that he had left, and now she felt disconnected from the service. The scene in Los Angeles when the marathon for the books started was that artists would sit and paint until they could no longer keep their eyes open. And when they would doze off, they would take some place on the floor underneath their canvas, and another artist would come in and start painting on their painting. And meanwhile, all the typesetters, the editors, those who were laying out the book, which takes a considerable amount of work, and especially back then, the tools, we didn't have computers to lay things out. Everything was done in a more mechanical way, mechanistic way. Halfway through the marathon, some of the books were available, and the leaders of the marathon had brought them in before Mangal Arati and put them on the altar, and then when the curtains opened, they were there. And those who were eyewitnesses at the time said, everyone at Mangal Arati was weeping. And finally, the marathon had finished 2 months and 1 day. They had completed the task. And they'd been able to print the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita in 2 months. And Prabhupada wrote them a letter guaranteeing that they would go back to Godhead. And then he said, by the way, you were 1 day late. So this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness that came up as a miracle. It came from the serendipitous meeting of our founder Acharya and his spiritual master, who represented the line of teachings coming from Krishna. And someone may say, well, how do you know that works? Just as you may say, see 2 wires on the ground, copper wires. You may say, how do you know it has electricity in it? And we just say, touch it. You'll know. And in a similar way, we know that we're alive when we wake up because we're smart. We know stuff because we're living entities. We're part of Krishna. And in a similar way, we can know our original source, Krishna, through the process of consciously accepting service and hearing and chanting about Krishna. And therefore, this movement has become successful because it works. So, Srila Prabhupada was eager that people everywhere in the world would have an opportunity to experience that they're souls, that they're conscious beings, part of Krishna, and that we have an eternal relationship with Krishna that is ever deepening, and that can be revived by the process of bhakti. The simplest of forms of bhakti is chanting the names of Krishna in the Hare Krishna mantra. And one can also become immersed in thoughts of Krishna by hearing from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have a simple movement. It's based on faith. It's based on direct experience of the process of bhakti. And another aspect of our movement is that it moves, or it's supposed to move, which means it's an evangelical movement. The founder of this movement 500 years ago, in general, the Sampradaya was revived by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who compared it to a flood that drowns one in happiness. And he said, I wanted to drown everyone. And therefore he made arrangements that everyone could be touched, not just touched, but inundated by the transcendental sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. They would also be edified by reading the bona fide literatures that describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and joyful in meeting devotees and breaking bread with them, taking spiritual food. So we're all part of that movement. Here in ISKCON Silicon Valley, we're very fortunate. I was sitting down in Burlingame, where I've been sitting for the last 36 years, and minding my own business. And all of a sudden I heard some news. There were a few devotees that had come here to Silicon Valley, and they had rented a little house over on New Jersey Avenue. A few people invited me, why don't you come check it out? I came once, and beautiful deities of Radha Krishna were there in the living room, these deities. And Mahaprabhu was there too, in somebody's living room. It was a small house. And the devotees had partitioned the house with some kind of plywood so that half of it was for grihastas and the other half was for brahmacharis. And that was our first temple here in ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Thank you. Until the neighbors figured out we had opened a church in a residential neighborhood. There was no parking anywhere on Sundays because so many people came to the house. But to speak of all the smells of cooking all day long. So they said, can you do that here? As in, you can't do that here. So the devotees then found around the corner on Union Avenue a little storefront. It was a humble place that had an Allstate insurance sign on the top, next to which we placed a sign that said Bhakti Yoga. That's all it said. And it had pane windows that you could see in from the street. Small parking lot, tiny little strip mall it was. And next to that was a haircutting salon. And next to that was a pizza place. And next to that, there was a computer repair shop. I don't know what was further down than that. I didn't walk that far. And when people would come to the strip mall to get a pizza, have their hair cut, or fix their computer, They would walk past the little storefront and they would go like this. Because there were Shri Radha Madan Mohan looking out at them, and Srimad Mahaprabhu. I think it was the Janmashtamis that finally disturbed the landlord enough. He saw that we were bringing hundreds of people into the little storefront. We had to have our Janmashtami in the smelliest little place in Silicon Valley, a karate studio across the street. But we were all happy. We had our programs there. And when we crossed the street to get there with the deities and carrying prasadam and so forth, we were joyful having kirtan. But the landlord finally said, can you really do that here? Meaning, get out of here. Your lease is over. And then we found what I thought was the most improbable little dwelling I'd ever seen. As soon as they took me there, excitedly said, "Here, have a look at this. How about this for our next temple?" That was on Bascom. I said, "This will never work." And the next thing I heard was, "It's all we got. We're moving in. We already got the lease." It was a little L-shaped dwelling. Good memories for all you kids, right? That's where you grew up. And you'd walk in, and then there was kind of a sharp turn to see the deities. Peculiar aspects of this place were that it was an unincorporated area. So our landlord wasn't held to the same standards as many other people in Silicon Valley. And he was, with all due respect, if you were watching, a hoodlum who tried many types of businesses. His place of business was very near to ours, and he had car detailing, which was the best for us because when we had our Janmashtami, we had laid out tarps everywhere, and the parking lot then became this grand place for celebrating Krishna's birthday. And somehow the landlord let us use his car detailing area, which had 3 openings of a garage for when we did our dramas. That was our makeshift stage for performing the Leela of Krishna with different types of soaps and sponges in the background and so forth. And then we discovered across the street was a fencing studio, fencing like this. And it was a wide open space, and somehow we made that place into a glorious temple room for Janmashtami. And again, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people came for that. And because it's a busy street, we would take people in cars and drive them across the street to take them there, telling each one that we were taking them across the Ganges or the Jamuna to the other side. And after 7 years of being in that place where there was no air conditioning, record heat during Janmashtami was 104 degrees. We knew who was very dedicated because all the people who weren't said, "Are you going to go to Janmashtami in that place?" And you're kidding, it's 100 degrees in there. But somehow everyone was happy who stayed. And then we came to this place about 12 years ago. So it's all happened in this International Site for Krishna Consciousness can work anywhere because It is based on spiritual principles, not dependent on external features. Even though we're now working with architects and drawing out feasible schemes for our next place. So stay tuned. If you show up here and nobody's here, we moved. The one aspect of Krishna consciousness that is mentioned in the Sri Upanishad is that one who's spiritually minded treats every living being with respect. This is a universal principle. You'll find it any place where there are genuine spiritual principles being practiced, that people discover the sacredness of their own consciousness. But that's just the beginning, because when we discover the sacredness of our own consciousness, we can then also discover the source of our consciousness. We're tiny parts of the Supreme Consciousness. And our consciousness, because it's part of the Supreme Consciousness, is venerable, it's worshipable, it's honorable, it's virtuous. Consciousness itself is pure. As our source is pure and we're part of our source, the first experience of self-realization in Krishna consciousness is to notice the exalted quality of one's own consciousness and how it's different from the material world. And I'm going to read to you a short, well, it's actually long, passage. Depends on your practice of reading. From the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yesterday we were fortunate to be together on a Zoom meeting that we hold every Saturday called Youth Jam. And I had asked devotees to mention what their favorite verse and purport might be from any of Prabhupada's books. And Brajaras Bhavana Prabhu had picked this verse and read it. It just happens to be one of my favorite verses also. And now I'd like to read it to you. May I have permission? Do you have enough air? You're going to need oxygen for this. You okay? More air. If you can get a cross ventilation, you'll definitely need oxygen for this. In fact, just try to sit a little straighter for a second and take a nice deep breath. And imagine that you're at Naimisharanya and you're going to hear something that will change your life. And the practice of bhakti starts with hearing. So we're doing direct bhakti practice now. And I'm going to read to you. And the practice is to listen. The mind will go off somewhere else. It'll problem solve. Did I leave the stove on? Who's going to pick up Schnicky tomorrow? Come back to the hearing and practice just listening, knowing that this is coming from a divine source. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo. It's not from this creation, it's from a higher creation. Bhagavan sarva bhuteshu lakshata swatmana hari. Drishyar buddhyadibhir drashta lakshanayar anumapakai. The personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is in every living being, along with the individual soul. And this fact is perceived and hypothesized in our acts of seeing and taking help from the intelligence. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The general argument of the common man is that since the Lord is not visible to our eyes, how can one either surrender unto him or render transcendental loving service unto him? To such a common man, here is a practical suggestion given by Srila Shukadeva Goswami as to how one can perceive the Supreme Lord by reason and perception. Actually, the Lord is not perceivable by our present materialized senses, but when one is convinced of the presence of the Lord by a practical service attitude, there is a revelation by the Lord's mercy, and such a pure devotee of the Lord can perceive the Lord's presence always and everywhere. He can perceive that intelligence is the form direction of the Paramatma, plenary portion of the personality of Godhead. The presence of Paramatma in everyone's company is not very difficult to realize, even for the common man. The procedure is as follows. One can perceive one's self-identification and feel positively that he exists. He may not feel it very abruptly, but by using a little intelligence, he can feel that he is not the body. He can feel that the hand, the leg, the head, the hair, and the limbs are all his bodily parts and parcels. But as such, the hand, the leg, the head, etc., cannot be identified with his self. Therefore, just by using intelligence, he can distinguish and separate his self from other things that he sees. So the natural conclusion is that the living being, either man or beast, is the seer, and he sees besides himself all other things. So there is a difference between the seer and the seen. Now, by a little use of intelligence, we can also readily agree that the living being who sees the things beyond himself by ordinary vision has no power to see or to move independently. All our ordinary actions and perceptions depend on various forms of energy supplied to us by nature in various combinations. Our senses of perception and of action, that is to say, our 5 perceptive senses of 1, hearing, 2, touch, 3, sight, 4, taste, and 5, smell, as well as our 5 senses of action, namely 1, hands, 2, legs, 3, speech, 4, evacuation organs, and 5, reproductive organs, and also our 3 subtle senses, namely 1, mind, 2, intelligence, and 3, ego, 13 senses in all, are supplied to us by various arrangements of gross or subtle forms of energy. And it is equally evident that our objects of perception are nothing but the products of the inexhaustible permutations and combinations of the forms taken by natural energy. As this conclusively proves that the ordinary living being has no independent power of perception or of motion, and as we undoubtedly feel our existence being conditioned by nature's energy, we conclude that he who sees is spirit, and that the senses as well as the objects of perception are material. The spiritual quality of the seer is manifest in our dissatisfaction with the limited state of materially conditioned existence. That is the difference between matter and spirit. There are some less intelligent arguments that matter develops the power of seeing and moving as a certain organic development. But such an argument cannot be accepted because there is no experimental evidence that matter has anywhere produced a living entity. Trust no future, however pleasant. Idle talks regarding future development of matter into spirit are actually foolish, because no matter has ever developed the power of seeing or moving in any part of the world. Therefore, it is definite that matter and spirit are two different identities. And this conclusion is arrived at by the use of intelligence. Now we come to the point that the things which are seen by a little use of intelligence cannot be animate unless we accept someone as the user of or director of the intelligence. Intelligence gives one direction like some higher authority, and the living being cannot see or move or eat or do anything without the use of intelligence. When one fails to take advantage of intelligence, he becomes a deranged man, and so a living being is dependent on intelligence or the direction of a superior being. Such intelligence is all-pervading. Every living being has this intelligence, and this intelligence, being the direction of some higher authority, is just like a father giving direction to his son. The higher authority who is present and residing within every individual living being is the super self. How are you doing so far? I don't think the air helped that much. It seems warmer since we opened the doors. Is it? Do you want to hear more, or would you like to have a short discussion on what we read already? Okay, go ahead. Who said that? Questions, comments? It was hard to follow? Okay, anybody have any reflections about what you heard? Yes. Question. Okay, right up here.
Thank you, Maharaj, for giving us such a nice narration of how the temples, how they were shaped. So, two questions actually. One was, could you tell us about how the deities came here? The Radha Madan Mohan deities.
How the deities came here? Well, there was a devotee who founded this first iteration of ISKCON of Silicon Valley named Rohini Kumar, and they were his personal deities. They were slightly different because same Radharani was there. Krishna was Nathji, and they were together. And they used to stay in the little house that's next to the Los Angeles temple. So I walked in there one day when I was visiting Los Angeles, and I sat and chanted Brahma Samhita to those deities, and then later they came here. Mahaprabhu was there, but that's it. Mahaprabhu and Radharani and Nathji. So after founding the ISKCON of Silicon Valley and bringing his team with him, Rohini Kumar took a hiatus. That left younger devotees to fend for themselves, and fend they did in such a nice way. One thing led to another, as I already explained, and the fledgling organization came under the banner of ISKCON. And at that time, there was a tacit agreement, actually it was a spoken agreement, that if Rohini's deities ever came under the banner of ISKCON, they would have to be reorganized to have not Nathji with Radharani, but regular Shyamasundar Krishna. And so there's a family that lived in Washington, D.C., who adored that deity and wanted to worship him. We brought Madan Mohan, or I believe it was Bhaktivatsal brought him from India, or was it Jananivas? Jananivas brought him Bhaktivatsal. Jananivas brought Nathji on an airplane to Washington, D.C. with much fanfare. He ordered him a seat on the airplane and ordered him a fruit plate and buckled him in, and they brought him to the airport on dolly that was decorated and somewhat appropriate for the Lord. And while on the flight, one of the flight attendants came up to Jananivas Prabhu and said, was Bhaktivatsal and Jananivas brought from India? Okay, so Bhaktivatsal took him to Nathji, to Washington, D.C., to the family who had the wherewithal to worship him on a regular basis. And the flight attendant came up to him and said, we're all in the back having a discussion, and we'd like to ask you a question. He said, yes. He said, who is it? And he said, who do you think it is? What was your conclusion? And she said, Buddha? He said, no, it's Krishna. He said, oh, that's Krishna. And so when he got off the plane, there was also a fanfare waiting with a kirtan, and he was taken to the home of the very exalted devotees who wanted to worship him. They're still worshiping him. And sometime later, Jananivas Prabhu had arranged for Madan Mohan to be sculpted in Jaipur, and then brought him. And we had an installation ceremony on Janmashtami of what year? For 50 points. Maybe it was Gaur Purnima. No, we came here on Ram Navami, but I remember we had, Indradumna Maharaj was there. I got a huge swimming pool, plastic swimming pool for the Shnan Patra. And we had an installation ceremony. It was Gaur Purnima, 2002. And when we then installed Radha Madan Mohan. And that's when they had that name. They took that name. That was already their name. We just figured it out. And then in our, as I described that, a little L-shaped building we had. I don't even know if it's still there. I'd be surprised. It's there. Wow. It's available. So on 9/11, day of 9/11, remember that? You do? What happened? There was an attack, right? You don't want to remember. Okay. So there was an attack, and there had been some discussion about Sri Sri Lakshmana Shringadev, and there was a temple down in Tijuana that was worshiping him, but then they couldn't maintain it, so they had mentioned that, could you guys take the deity? And we said, we guess so, maybe. But we didn't hear from him, except on 9/11. A devotee had driven Sri Sri Lakshmana Shringadev, I think it was in a convertible. They pulled up in our parking lot and said, he's here. A few hours after the attack. It's very heavy deity, very heavy. We brought him in, and there he was. The devotees never had any sense of fear because of Lord Nrsimhadev's arrival on 9/11. Everyone felt that that was so indicative of his protection. And then we added Sri Sri Panchatattva. Prabhupada had started the Krishna conscious movement. The only deities we had in our movement were Panchatattva. There's still some original oil paintings of Panchatattva around the movement. One of my friends in Alachua has one with the original paintings. And that's what Prabhupada set up for deity worship everywhere, was a picture of Panchatattva. Still, I highly recommend it. If you want a picture of Krishna in your home and start an altar, get a nice picture of Panchatattva. And that's why we have a picture of Panchatattva on the left altar. There you go. There it is. Okay. Last chance to ask a question. Yes?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I had a reflection actually.
Yes, please.
So I was thinking about that when Srila Prabhupada bowed and to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I was thinking like how much Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted it to preach in the West, and that anybody who was coming, he was asking like, I mean, I don't know, but like somebody came and just bowed and he said like, you should go and preach in the West. So I was thinking like how much he wanted it, and then getting this opportunity to in here and being fortunate to do some service. So it was very nice.
When somebody is invited into the divine energy of the parampara as a servant to help, and anybody can be, just a matter of acquiescing, then such a person, as Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita, Mahatmanastu Mamparta Daivim Prakritim Ashrita, is empowered by the internal potency of the Lord. And such devotees are always eager. What's more, they're also empowered to invite other people to come into the fold of the practice of Krishna consciousness. And I've noticed, thinking back to one time in our temple on Union Avenue where we had the storefront, we had just become serious about going out to distribute books, and there was a new person there who had gone out to meet people and distribute books, and he found the experience so enlivening that the next morning while we were sitting in the class, I saw somebody walk up to the window because they saw Bhakti Yoga and they wanted to know what was going on, and they looked in the window, and then we were having class and they walked away, and I saw this devotee jump up, run out the door and catch up with the person and say, no, please come in. And that enthusiasm to bring other people to Krishna consciousness is the internal or divine energy of the Lord, invites other people to come in. And everybody has an opportunity to take up that kind of service, to do the simple process of hearing and chanting, and then also distributing it to others, and it makes a very complete practice. So now we're going to try the chanting of Hare Krishna together. And then after that, we have a genuine Artik ceremony where we'll be offering various articles to Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, and we'll all be able to witness that and sing together and dance. It's our dancing opportunity coming up just a few minutes. And after that, we'll have a couple of brief announcements, and then we're going to feed everybody, not just here, but if you have friends anywhere, you can call them and tell them to come. We'll feed everybody in the whole county. Whoever comes, we'll feed them. So if you're listening, get on down here. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschatadeshaya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita This tune is an original tune from Srila Prabhupada. He only used about 5 tunes total. It's one of the more unusual tunes, and it's got a special quality to it. Since we were talking about our existential situation here in this world, how we have an opportunity as parts of Krishna to call out to Him. This tune has, of course, it's not the tune, it's the mantra, but the tune can be helpful in putting us in a certain mood of chanting, which is to call out to Krishna, please let me make that decision in my heart to surrender to you and take up your eternal service. It goes like this. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Last choice. Rama, Rama, Gaura Premanande, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Okay, now we've all been waiting for the Hare Krishna dance party. People don't dance enough in the world. They're all stifled in cars and little houses and cubicles and in their minds. Let it go now. So we made this temple special. The only part we kept, a few walls, but this floor that's why we bought this place. It's a wooden floor. That's what you want in a temple room. Marble's too hard and cold. So this is natural wood. And these trees offered themselves to us tonight. They gave their lives so we could dance. So we're going to move the asanas out of the way. No obstructions. We'll put everything in its place. Then we're going to stand up. And within the next minute and 32 seconds, we'll have everyone aligned so that we can start our Hare Krishna dance party. For comfort, convenience, if you wish, the ladies can be on this side. The gentleman on that side. We'll keep an aisle down the middle in case we need to pull anybody out on a stretcher. No, so Prabhupada can see. And thank you very, very much for coming today, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the dance floor. Hare Krishna. Now it's good. Okay. Everyone in the front, move up a little bit, please, towards the deities, just a little. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswate Deve Krishna Chaitanya Charitamrita Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya. Ashtotar Shata Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki. Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki. Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham ki. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki. Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi ki. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi ki. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to ISKCON of Silicon Valley. We're glad to see so many wonderful faces here, despite all the changes in weather recently. And we'd like to first thank His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu for leading today's class. By a quick show of hands, and also these announcements will last for a maximum of 5 to 7 minutes before Prasadam. But by a quick show of hands, who actually knew the story of Chaitanya Charitamrita, who knew the story of Madan Mohan, our temple, the history? Quick show of hands. Very, very few. So this is a very enlightening, intimate class for us to learn about our history. So thank you again to Prabhu for that. We also thank His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu for leading today's Kirtan. And Shrikar, who's visiting us for the melodious Nrsingadev prayers. I know a few of us are stepping out, but who is here for the first time? Please raise your hand. Who's here at ISV for the first time? Welcome. Thank you so much. So many Matajis here for the first time back there as well. Thank you so much for coming to ISV. To welcome our newcomers, we'll chant together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're very glad that you're here with us, and we'd like to see you come back more often. So if there's anything we can do to answer your questions or help you with anything, myself and Shri Gopal Prabhu here will be very glad to assist you. We also want to thank those who sometimes are a little invisible to us, but they're there, I promise. They're on YouTube, Facebook, and all these different channels where they are coming in to tune live to ISV. So we want to thank them, as well as Charinamai Prabhu and the entire team of broadcasters for making that possible. We have 3 sponsors for today's Sunday feast. The first is Akshay Prabhu and Himanshi Mataji, who are sponsoring on the occasion of their wedding anniversary, and it may be their first wedding anniversary. Are they here? Please come to the front.
Hare Krishna to everyone. So we joined this community around the time when we were about to get married. And since then, everybody in the community has welcomed us with so much love, especially Manish Prabhuji, Mukharvind Prabhuji, Anang Gopika Mataji. Even till now, she calls me like every other week and she's asking me, how are you doing? So thank you so much for the love and the guidance. And we're very grateful to Radha Madan Mohan for everything. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Here's a little gift for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next sponsor is Sukeshwari Mataji, and she's sponsoring in the honor of Nick, and she'll tell us a little bit more about him as well.
Hare Krishna. So most of them know that I had a kidney transplantation about 4 years ago. It would have not been possible without Nick. Unfortunately, he passed away, and that's how. And he was very kind that he actually gave both his kidneys, liver, and couple other organs. I'm standing here and able to do my services because of him. And I love to sponsor every year, remembering him. And I sincerely request everybody to pray for him so that he continues his journey in his Krishna consciousness, because we've been praying for him for a long time now. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
We have one more sponsor for today, and that is Premnam Prabhu Tulsi Bhakti Mataji and their son Vaish, who are actually now a part of our community. So, are they here today? Is Mataji here? Please come up. Please say a few words.
Please accept our most humble obeisances. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
I will. Would you like to say anything? Okay, that's fine. We're very glad to have you as a part of the community, and for those who weren't there yesterday, we got to know a little bit more about them. And so feel free to stop over and say Hare Krishna and welcome them to the community. Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you. Now we have two more quick announcements. The first is from Balimardan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Coming with suitcase. Hare Krishna. Everybody thinking maybe getting some jewelries for all of you? Yeah. Yes. So Prabhupada also got the suitcase from India when he came. Do you know what he got? Books, right? So we have special things. Krishna book is there, and what is my? Can you hold 1 minute? Okay, this is in the box. 50 copies we got it from India, and this is like time bomb. All Prabhupada's lectures, bhajans. Can you open it? Because we want to be real. Can you move this side? Let's open the one simple thing. Kids, can somebody come help? Come on. You may be faster than me. Yeah. Yes, hold it. Show it to the public. Those who are also online can view. And it has the whole Prabhupada's lectures and everything is there. So I don't know how many, it has more than 5,000 plus bhajans. So throughout your life, you will be able to see. Not only that, it has 6 more features. From here, you can see, you can use as also radio. And you can use, yeah, that's good. And also you can use Bluetooth to any of your devices if you wanted to hear. Plus also it has some other feature. It is there in the book, small books. So what is the suggested donations for this one? It comes, total this comes like shipping from India. Somehow it came FedEx, it got lost because I was moving my house. Then after 2-3 weeks, I really got it back because by Prabhupada's mercy. So, and they gave it my name, Balimardan Das, and they said they give me a identity. I said, I don't have an identity of my name, legal name. They said, you give a driver license. So I have to show that I am the real Balimardan and this. Then they admitted me and gave this one. Long half an hour discussion with FedEx guys. So nevertheless, we got this for all of you. And only 50 copies, 10 are already gone. $108. How much? You get a Krishna book or a book of your choice. If you have a Krishna book, anything you can ask Malini or SKP to get your book of choice. So $108, you can pay in the hundi or you can pay to Surya Kund. We have also the colors table is set up. So please collect, because before it's sold out, you may not get for another 1 year. And it has really a valuable gem. Vaisesika Prabhu in his birthday, he got it in Vyas Puja. First time it was released, a couple of years ago. Wow. He said that I have everything Prabhupada's lecture. Whenever he says Bhagavad Gita 3.9, Srimad Bhagavatam 18.6, you can play directly from this audio box. Thank you very much. Those who like, I'm not selling right now here. This box needs to be empty today. So I'm outside, so please see me, okay?
I also want to add, it's better than listening on YouTube with YouTube ads. So you will have no distractions.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
And this is part of the box.
Oh, this is in the box. Don't miss it.
Here, hold it.
Can you take it back?
All right, we have one more announcement from Sukeshwari Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So we have, most of you know that I actually did a presentation on Radha Academy that's coming up in August 2025. It's going to be our own non-profit private school in Bay Area with the vision of His Grace Vaisesika Prabhu. We're going to do a pilot project for this particular school. So we're going to have a preschool foundation classes for 3-year-old and 4-year-olds on Saturdays We only have 8 spots. We've been doing pilot projects for kindergarten to 5th grade for the last 3 years, so which actually happens online. But preschoolers, it's very difficult to do them online. So we will be doing them at the temple on Saturdays. If you love, please, I'm going to put it down in the WhatsApp group so you'll get an idea on what it is, and please do register if you'd like. And we also have Sunday school. You all know we've been having Sunday school for the past 20 years. And you see all these boys and girls who are, please raise your hand if you went to Sunday school. So all of these kids, they have been with us since they were months old, and Priya Kishori as well. So we don't have any more space in Sunday school. So we have a Saturday school now. So please do register at Saturday school. We also have, for youth, the older kids, we have community services that's available. So please reach out to me or Raseshwari Leela for more information. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. And for one more final announcement, but this is very special, about an exciting highlight of the year that's coming up. So, Hansapriya Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Priya Kishori. How many of you know Janmashtami is coming up? When is that? August 26th, you're right. So it's a festival season has begun. And it's going to be very exciting. We're going to have the program throughout the day, starting 4 a.m. in the morning, 4:30 a.m. 4 a.m. because you need 20 minutes to park your cars. So start thinking that. I'm raising the awareness from today, okay? 4 a.m., right? The second thing that I wanted to mention, that we are again expecting 10 plus more thousand devotees on these premises. So we all should be ready. That means we would need a lot more volunteers. So we request each and everyone to come forward. We're going to have a volunteer during the Prasadam line. They will come meet you. And if you have not signed up for any of the services, we would love to get your engagement, because we believe in everyone doing a little bit each, right? So we all together collectively will put the festival together. More details about the festivals we will share. We do have, if you would like to sponsor the Janmashtami festival, there is a sponsorship booth outside. And Sri Gopal Prabhu is also here. Please reach out to him, Priya Kishori, and they can also give you more details and flyers as well as you need it. Hare Krishna.
And the final announcement is of the cooks. Madhav will announce them.
Hare Krishna, the cooks for today's Sunday feast were Siddhakatha Prabhu, Swarna Gopika Mataji, Shankar Prabhu, Shali Mataji, Niharika, Ramuna, Priyanka Mataji, Smita Mataji, Keli Kunja Kumari Mataji, Ritik Prabhu, Rashmi Mataji, and Arshia. Cleaning was done by Danikeli Mataji and Shreya, who did heavy lifting and cleaning, and Shyam Sundar Prabhu. Today's menu is rice, kurma, palak dal, kheer, plum nectar, and puri. Thank you.
For today's cooking, I wanted to extend my special thanks to Priyanka Mataji, who came to temple for the first time. And she helped us frying almost 300 puris. And when we thanked her, she said that no need to thank, it's blessing for me. There is one more Mataji. Her name is Rakhi Mataji. I don't see her here. But she and her family, all of them were serving since 11 o'clock. And they came here because her son got promoted. And they thought like it's a good way to serve deities and devotees by serving in kitchen.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. I keep saying one more, but I promise this is the last one. Today is Rohini's birthday, and see, I told you it was special. Rohini, please come here. Okay. So Rohini, I know her since she was maybe 2 years old, and I actually know all the kids since they were that age mostly, but And she has grown in this community. She's gone through all her schooling so diligently. She's always so close to her family, her parents. And one thing many might not know is she's so dedicated in ensuring that she gets darshan of Mayapur and all the deities every day. And she's the epitome of attraction to the Dham. And when you see Radharani's head garland, what we call as a gajra, she makes that, and it takes over 2.5 hours, if not more, to make that, because they're all flower garlands. So we might not see her in the front so much, but she does all of this and so much more. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all so much for the birthday wishes. I sincerely pray and seek your blessings so that I can continue to serve the deities and all of you, and especially Vaisesika Prabhu and Nirakula Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Rohini, you've been at ISKCON Silicon Valley since you were a little baby, and even as a baby, you were steady in devotional service. Now, you're constantly engaged in chanting Hare Krishna. You have a beautiful bhajan ear. And also, you've joined the elite garland making team. And I've noticed over the years that you're completely steady. In fact, I think one day if I look in the dictionary under the word steady, I'm going to see a picture of you next to it. So, I just heard from in there because I had a meeting I had to attend, but I didn't know it was your birthday today. Maybe I should have, but on your day of your birthday, I pray that Krishna protect you throughout your life by keeping you close to his lotus feet and the service that you're doing, and that you'll be completely successful in everything you do because of your humble attitude and artistic sense. And although she looks very meek and humble, I think she runs the Mayapur organization from over here. Because whenever I go there, people, high-level brahmacharis and sannyasis come up to me and say, you can give class or lead here. I said, why? And they say, Rohini called. So thank you for all you do, Rohini. All glories to your service. Hare Krishna. Now? Sharirat Vijaja Jodendriya Kahika Samsara Gaura Premanande, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Please come take prasadam. Prasadam would be served in the picnic area. Go out this door and take a sharp right, and it'll be right there. Hare Krishna.